Do I have somebody else coming up? Am I gonna do this by myself? I don't like to be by myself in situations. How does Mark Shepard do it?
Next question. No, next question. Yes, next question.
Can I do that? No, didn't think so. Do I want to? Not really. I'll tell you what I know in a way that doesn't make sense. It's the art of saying everything without telling you anything. All right. You can do it. Hi.
Hi. Actually, my question is about the subject that we're kind of talking about. I was asking if you watch the Academy Awards very often. I mean, if you have like a ritual of always watching the movies or liking to see the ceremonies, and if there is like a movie that you really liked that won, or actor, actresses, or one that you really got disappointed that didn't win.
I watch some award shows. I guess I don't put a lot of stock into awards. They're nice for those that win or get nominated. I think it's a nice feather in the cap. And I do feel like there are projects and there are performances that should be honored. And I'm glad that we have awards that do that. But I guess I've gotten to a point where it's not something that's a necessity for being successful. Because I think the success comes from different aspects of life. This is success to me. I guarantee you there are people with Oscars in their houses that can't get this many people to show up 15 years in a row. And I'm not saying that one is better than the other. I'm just saying there are different things that I think you can hang success on. Would I like to have awards, or would I like to be honored with an award? Of course, that feels good. Are there movies or shows that get awarded awards that I'm like, what? Yes, I think we can all agree on that. Are there ones that don't get awards and you're like, how? I think we can all agree on that. The award system is, and I've never been involved in like being nominated or campaigning for the upper tier awards. I've won a few awards, which has been great, and that's again something that is it's a really nice pat on the back. But success to me doesn't hinge on that. It's an interesting industry when it comes to awards, and I'm not saying that this movie wasn't deserving of the accolades that it got, but you talk about Anora, and it won a slew of awards, but they spent I think double the amount of money on on the marketing for the movie and the campaign that they did for the movie itself. So I don't know what that says about our industry, and maybe it's something that needs to be addressed, but it probably won't. And again, I think, you know, I think that Mikey and that whole movie certainly deserved accolades for what they had done. But it's an interesting industry when it comes to awards because, you know, I guess the big question is, are they bought? And you could make an argument for that. You could. So I don't put a lot of weight into what those awards say about projects or people. I put it into what those projects or those actors, what the reputation is, or what it does for the art, or what it does for the industry. How do they move the needle in making, you know, making this a better industry to be a part of. So, I guess, I don't know, did that answer your question at all?
No!
Not so much,
That's a hard one to answer. Sorry. Hi.
Hi. My question is not so serious. I was wondering, since it was April Fool's a few days ago, if you were a part of an April Fool jokes, or someone did an April Fool jokes on you. Maybe not this year, but some that you remember. Like a good one.
So that day, I remember specifically, because it was a day where Jared and Misha and I, we're all staying at the same hotel in Toronto right now, had a very early call. It was like we were supposed to be downstairs in the car at 6 a.m. And Misha and I was down there at 6. Misha was down there at like 6:03. And we were in the van. We were waiting for Jared. I know, not shocking. 6:10, 6:12, 6:15, 6:20. I called him. And he didn't answer. I texted him. He didn't answer. Called him again. He didn't answer. Misha's like, should I go have the front desk call his room? I'm like, probably. Misha gets out of the van, goes inside. I call him again. He answers. Yeah. Jared? Yeah. We've been in the car for almost a half an hour. Oh, yeah, no, I'm downstairs. I'm coming downstairs. Okay. And I wanted to be like, April Fools, you've got another hour to sleep. And I had this whole thing, like, this is what I'm gonna do, but the desperation in his voice. Because it's the worst feeling, being late for work. Like, especially on a set when you have an entire, 100-person crew waiting for you. You have cast, you have directors, everybody's waiting for you, and you're the one person holding it up. It's the worst. And I've unfortunately had that happen to me a couple of times in my long career. And it just feels the worst. And I could hear that in his voice when he woke up. He was like, my alarm didn't go off! And I just was like, I wanted to say April Fools so bad. I was like, April Fools, you can go back to sleep. And I would have happily waited another hour for him. But I couldn't do it. And he he was in such a way, and I quickly called Misha, and I was like, hey, don't call up, I just talked to him, he's on his way down. So he came down, and he's already sweating, he was already like, my alarm didn't go off, do you guys ever have that when you're alive? And I'm just like, okay, I can't mess with him today. Today is off the table. It's April Fool's and it's off the table. And he was so like flustered and felt so, because I mean, we've been working, you know, obviously Supernatural aside, we've been working on the boys at that point for like 3 or 4 days. And Jared is notoriously late. Notoriously late. Like, Supernatural alone, I could list a million, you know, examples. He's gotten much better in his older age. And for this, and he knew, and I knew this, I didn't even have to talk to him about it. I knew that he knew that he was a guest in somebody else's house. Because I'm a guest in somebody else's house when I go to the boys. And you try to be as professional as you possibly can. And one of those tenets of being professional is showing up on time. And he missed his call, he missed his alarm that morning, and the rest of the day was shot as far as messing with him, because I was like, I can't mess with the guy, he's already broken. So, to answer your question, you know, April Fool's came and went because Jared messed it up for all of us.
So it was like April Fool's on you?
It was really April Fool's on us, yeah. It was a long joke, and he won. Yeah, so that's what happened April 1st.
Thank you.
Thanks. Hello.
It's not going to be a deep dive. Something easy. I wanted to ask about ad-libs. Okay. I have thousands of questions about them, but really I wanted to know 3 things. If when you're reading the script, there's something come into mind and you think, maybe I could try that, or not. If that happens, do you sometimes warn your screen partner? Because sometimes it looks like Jared knows that you're going to say something that's an ad-lib, and he starts to grin, but not just on Supernatural, on other programs. And the other question was, are there some directors that you just get the feeling that you can ad-lib with them, whereas others you probably shouldn't?
So to answer your first part of the question, yes, when I read a script, I'll read lines, and there's sometimes an idea will pop into my head, and I'll write it out to the side of the script. I'll be like, oh, this might also be a good line, or this might be a funny ad, or this might be an emotional ad. So that can happen when I read the script. But more often than not, it happens when you're on set and you're doing the scene, and something, now all of a sudden you're hearing the words out loud with your scene partner, and they're saying it a certain way, you're saying it a certain way, and then you realize, man, this would be an interesting line to say, or a funny line to say, or a more emotional line to say. And so a lot of times it happens kind of in the moment. There are times when I'll get the idea in the previous take, and then they say cut, and then I'll tell Jared, I'll be like, hey, when I say, I'm not going to say that line, I'm going to say this. And I'll be like, oh yeah. So he'll immediately adjust in his head, like how he's going to react to that or whatever. But a lot of times I won't tell him. Or a lot of times I didn't tell him. And I'll just do it and see what he does. And he and I know each other so well, and we worked together for so long, that I know what he can, I know that he's capable of playing if I throw him a curveball. And he is. And there's a lot of it with Rob and Rich you know, Matt and Misha, like all those guys, like there are certain people that you work with that you just know that they can handle going off script in a way that makes it a viable option. And so I always like to look for those options. Always want to get it as scripted. Always want to give the writers what they spent time writing. I always want to deliver that. But then I might ask for like give me one more take. And I'll do something different that just came to mind. And they might use it, they might not, but at least I got that out. Because sometimes I'm like, if I don't say it, it's gonna burn a hole in my head. And so I will either do it in the moment, or I will plan it and tell people this is what I'm gonna do. And if you get the trust of a director, and you get the trust of other castmates to let you do this, it's a really beautiful place to be in. I was given that on Countdown, and I was able to really play, and I was encouraged to play. And so the other actors that I worked with, they were kind of always ready. They were like, "What are you going to say next?" And there were some scenes where I would do it off camera. I would just change it up to just mess with them and see see if it whatever they got.
Yeah.
And I will say that one of the great gratifications I get, going back to the award conversation, one of the greatest awards I ever get is making the crew laugh. If I hear audible laughter from the crew from something that I just said in the moment, or an ad-lib, or something that I've done, that is such a reward for me. I get so much joy in that. I think it's also part of just loving what I do and being present with characters and the actors and the crew and the story and the action and being able to be comfortable enough in that to play.
Feel the connection.
Yeah, and that's a really beautiful place to be in your work environment.
Yeah.
And you don't just have to be on camera to do that. Like any industry, like if you're that comfortable with your coworkers to be able to go off script in a way that might make it better, and that they have the confidence in you to do that. That's a really, really great place to be. And I'm thankful now that I'm where I'm at in my career, where I'm able to do that a lot, and it's a lot of fun.
When you were filming Tracker and you were Russell and you were talking to the mortuary lady and you were asking her out and you said, "So close." And Justin's laugh was as if he didn't expect you to say that at all.
That was an ad-lib.
It was
But
so
again, that
close.
goes with, I've known Justin for 20 years, and he and I are dear friends. And also the head writer of that show is somebody I've worked with before as well.
On Big Sky.
On Big Sky, yeah, Elwood. And he's like, play, man. I'm just gonna get you two on camera, you guys just play. And he's like, what I wrote, that's just a suggestion. Do whatever, do what you can. And so Justin and I were able to play. And this is something a lot of people don't know. Justin's one of the funniest people I know. He is outrageously smart and witty and funny. His humor is like sharp. And one of the reasons why I consider him a dear friend, because he makes me laugh a lot. He doesn't play that on camera. And I'm like, dude, you're so funny. He's like, nah, that's not the role. And I'm like, you got it. All right, well, I'm going to. And he's like, okay, you do it.
It's like straight man and funny.
Yeah, straight man, funny man. And I was like, I can play that role. And he's like, well, I can play the straight man. But it also takes somebody who understands comedy to play a straight role. Some of the best comedic geniuses in entertainment have been the straight man. I mean, Jason Bateman's probably one of the best in the business. And he is hilarious. But he plays opposite funny guys so well. And so I think in order to play that role and do it with success, you have to understand comedy. And Justin understands comedy more than people think.
Hopefully we'll see him in a comedic role.
I hope so too. Yeah, he's very funny. Yeah. Thank you. All right.
My question is about Soulja Boy. So, is there any line or a quote from Soulja Boy that you have unintentionally let slip in public?
Okay, say it again.
Is there any line or a quote from Soulja Boy that you have unintentionally let slip in public?
That I can't say in public?
Let slip. Let slip. Yeah.
Oh, that I let slip.
Yeah.
No. No. But there is a lot of things that Soulja Boy has said that weren't scripted. I can't tell you. Because then that'll tell you something about me. Let's just say that when I put that suit on, which by the way, you know that like the cast chairs on The Boys, they're like directors' chairs. Everybody's seen those, right? They're high chairs, like this, right? And they've got the back with the name on it and the project on the back. So on The Boys, we have the low chairs, which are, regular chairs with the names on the back and stuff. I can't sit down because of the chest thing, and this doesn't bend, and so I have to do this. Very sexy. And it is, and I'm also wearing an entire underlayer under that so that it goes on, because it's like tacky, the fabric. So I have to wear like compression pants, compression shirts, full length sleeves, full length legs, and then I slide these things on. It takes me plus 2 costume people to put me together. And then I'm just in this thing, walking around all day, and like, I sit down and I'm just like, it's not comfortable. And I you do scenes and you're trying to move normal and you're trying to do these things and you get hot and it's cold up in Toronto. I'm sweating in that thing. So at the end of the day, I'm just peeling everything off, just like, oh. This is not answering your question at all. I just thought I'd take a moment and tell you the misery that I have to go through to play this role. But I will say that the writers have come up with things that I wouldn't have come up with. But the problem is when they go there, then my brain goes there, because that's what I have to say. And then all of a sudden, I'm in that frame of thought, and I start coming up with even worse things to say. And I'm not proud of it.
You should be.
But my mother's not. I'll tell you that much.
But we appreciate it a lot.
But yes, there are certain. I guess when I get into Soulja Boy's like frame of mind and I start talking like him and I start saying the things that he says, it lends itself to adding things that maybe aren't scripted, that my mind comes up with, and then I'm like, I need to take a shower for more reasons than swimming. And yeah, Kripke's been on set this past week, and he wasn't necessarily focused on what I was doing because I didn't have much dialogue. There was other actors and cameos and stuff that were happening, so he was dealing with that. But I do remember when I came and did a little cameo on Gen V. And Kripke happened to be on set that day, and I had all the words. And he was throwing out lines to me, and then I was coming up with lines that would top his lines, and then he would try to top my lines, and so it was just this back and forth of like, who could come up with the most disgusting words possible, and that's the beauty of art. Who won? So,
Is it your line or
what's that?
was it your line or?
So,
Yeah.
we both won because they ended up using a cut of all the lines. They couldn't pick one, so they ended up using like 3 or 4 of them. And I forget who came up with what, but I know I came up with at least 1 or 2 of them.
Tell us.
I can't remember exactly what it was, but you know when I'm talking to the kids, and I'm saying stuff, and it's not nice. There was one point in which I said the same thing, but in like 3 or 4 different ways. That was only supposed to be said in one way. And Kripke and I kept coming up with different ways to say it, and he was like, yeah, and then they just cut all of those together, and that was the final product. So, I've got some scenes coming up, and I just had some scenes, and with a young lady on the show. And I said some things, and I'm gonna say some things, and I can only say that I have the excuse of being another person when I'm saying that. It's not me. I'm not saying them. Soldier Boy is saying it. I would never.